Hello, everyone, and Happy New Year. Welcome back to That Sales Show with Coach Donna V. I'm a leadership and business development coach for Business Development University. And today I am super excited to have on my guest, who is actually a vocal impact coach. And she has so much credibility behind what she does. She's I think you were a graduate of Penn. We are a Wharton alum. She has her MBA in, what was your major?
I didn't have an MBA. I actually did my PhD,
your PhD,
in
I'm sorry.
education and linguistics.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. So
we were next to each other.
Awesome, awesome. So she has done a TED Talk at the University of Pennsylvania around voice and communication and authenticity. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. And the reason why I think this is a really powerful segment is because as sales reps, we really are responsible for carrying the message of the company, and we're charged with being the face of the company, and we're the first person that the company sees and our prospects see. So having a good personal presentation, having good vocal communication, verbal, nonverbal communication skills and presentation skills, and having self-awareness to how you're actually the impact you're having on the prospect when you first walk in the room is really, really important. So we're going to talk today about how you can really improve your authenticity and how you can connect more effectively very quickly with a client compared to maybe how you're doing it right now. So I have with me Dr. Laura Sicola, and again, she's with Vocal Impacts Production, and I'm sorry about that. We just met today for the first time.
Great.
So welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Donna.
I've just been talking with you for the 30 minutes that we spent. I think you're brilliant, and I think you have so much to offer the audience in terms of how to get to that high performance sales leadership, sales presence that everybody really needs to kick off their 2019. So
well, let's do it.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Where do you want to start? I mean, I think that it's very powerful to have reps understand that one of the biggest pieces of being able to connect with someone is your personal presence.
Yes.
And your voice comes along with that.
It does.
Right? So, and that tells the story to people of your authenticity. They got to read that right away before you can really even engage in a conversation. So tell me a little bit about how you develop that, or what that means to people that are meeting someone or a sales rep for the first time.
Sure. When you think about it, anytime that you speak, your message, there's the what you say and the how you say it, right? How many times have we been in an argument with someone where somebody's upset and the other one says, why are you mad? What did I say? And they said, it's not what you said, it's how you said it. So the how you said it is the voice piece as well as the body language. And it's an issue because while the words have some meaning to them in theory, the way that they sound when they come out tells people what you really think and believe about what you're saying. So think about the difference between if I say to you, nice glasses versus nice glasses. Very different, right? The words are the same. On paper, there's nothing wrong with it, but there's something in the way that those words sound that make you want to either say, hey, thanks, or get lost. You know, who asked you?
That was suspect.
Right. Why do I want to even continue this conversation? Right. So many of us have this blind spot where we think we're projecting something and we don't realize that our voice is actually communicating a completely different and counterproductive message to what our words are claiming.
Right. So tell me a little bit how you go about assessing, people's presentation when they're first opening an engagement or dialogue with a prospect.
Well, I have to ask them first and foremost, what's your goal? How do you want to come across? How do you think you're coming across? Is this somebody where you're approaching them very in an easygoing manner? Is it just a casual conversation? Are you trying to relate to them easily? Are you trying to come across as high energy and enthusiastic and driven and motivated? What is it you're trying to project? Because then we can start to play with, let's see what you're actually doing. because what you think you're doing is not likely what is actually coming across. And until we identify that gap, we have to know part A and part B. Until we know that, we can't move forward.
Yeah, it's interesting because sales reps, a lot of times, they're on the phone when they're making their initial connection.
Yes.
Right? And then if we are in a situation where there is, we're walking into a meeting, there might be multiple people there. So we have to read the room.
Yes.
And we're making observations very quickly.
Yep.
About who's in the room, how they shake our hand, how they say hello to us. So, but we're also charged with being motivated and having energy, because nobody wants to listen to somebody who's droning on and on about something. And we also don't want to listen to somebody who is telling us a lot of stuff. It's not like it's conversational.
Right.
So let's say you're meeting a prospect for the first time, right? And somebody's coming off very high energy. So what happens to the other person on the other side of the room if they're not a high energy person?
So who's the high energy one?
The sales rep.
The sales rep
reps
is
are
coming across
typically going to be the high energy people in the room.
And I think energy is always important, right? You never want a low energy sales rep. It's just a question of, when you compare yourself to that other person's energy and to, again, the nature of the issue at hand, how much energy is too much energy? What is the topic that what are you trying to sell, right? If I had a client who was a funeral director, she owned a funeral home. This is not a particularly high energy, happy, hey, let's get this done kind of endeavor, but there was still enough of a momentum she needed to keep and a positive energy, just in the sense of, we promise we'll take care of everything.
Well, trust. They're building trust there and comfort.
Right.
I'm going to take care of.
And you can't make it seem like you're so depressed that you don't even want to be there, because, well, why would I give my business to you? Of course you should be sad for me, but it should feel like you're confident in this and you're comfortable with it, and I know that you're going to make everything go smoothly. That's just enough energy for me to go. So gauging the relative energy level and being able to adjust accordingly is critical.
Yeah. So do you usually deal with people who recognize that they need some kind of communication or verbal coach? Like, how do people come to you? Is there like some epiphany they had, or was it some executive coaching engagement where they were like, in order to advance, you need to?
It's both. Sometimes people will realize for themselves that they're not being heard, they're not getting the results they want, they're not being taken seriously. There are lots of different reasons, and they'll see my TED Talk, or they'll see me on a show like this and say, I need to talk to her because I can feel that this is holding me back. I need people to treat me differently. Yeah. And on the flip side, often the boss will go to them and say, look, I really want you to be able to I want to put you in line for this next opportunity, but. And that's usually when the boss calls me, it's like there's that but in the middle of the sentence. I have this person, she's brilliant, she's driven, she's experienced, but. That but is always about the communication, the soft skills, which I hate that term, don't you? Soft skills, because they're hard, ironically. But those interpersonal communication skills, there's a lack there. And until you close that gap, they're like, you're not ready to lead yet.
Yeah. So tell me about your TED Talk. What were the topics there? Because I always tell people when they come on this show, if you had to do a TED Talk, what would it be, right? So tell me a little bit about what you shared in that TED Talk that's valuable for us.
Sure, there were a couple of basic pieces. The primary idea was that your leadership communication, your presence, is all going to be determined by your ability to have that trifecta of the verbal, vocal, and visual communication all working together, right? Your words, your voice, and your body language all have to have the same message at the same time and be in sync. Otherwise, people are going, something is off, right? So if I introduced myself to you and said, I'm Laura Sicola, and I'm an executive coach, and I am from Penn, and I do work with IBM and Comcast. I mean, you'd be like, what? Nothing I said was wrong. Everything I said was correct. But in your gut, you're going, yeah, not credible. Something's off. So it's because the mismatch is there. And when there's a mismatch, your brain ignores the words and focuses on the delivery. And that's what they believe.
The receiver's brain is like shutting down.
Right. Your brain is not listening. If I just said it like that to you, you'd be ignoring all the words I just said, no matter how accurate they were, and just going, yeah, in my evaluation of her, I'm not buying into her, because the delivery was so much louder in its message and so much clearer than what the words claimed. I'm undermining myself because I don't have that sync. So that was really the premise of the TED Talk.
Oh, awesome.
How to do it.
So how do you get people to get the message, the trifecta, in a way that they can pull that all together and be effective in communication?
I think a lot of people, number one, are not self-aware. They think they are. We've all had that moment, right, where you see yourself on a smartphone video, somebody took a selfie, or a couple of friends, and 30 seconds later, you play back the video and you go, oh my gosh, that sounded so much better in my head.
Like what's going to happen on my intro today?
Or you look at yourself and you go, what was I doing with my face? What was I doing with my hands? It's like, you were there, weren't you? Or how do you not know? It just happened and you were conscious when it happened. And yet, it's not until we see that video afterwards that we are abundantly and possibly painfully clear on what we actually did, in contrast to what we planned to do and what we think or thought that we actually did.
Yes.
So my goal and my job, first and foremost, is to help people identify that gap in order to close it. That's
Okay,
the first
great.
piece.
So we're going to take a break.
Yeah.
And we're going to come back and we're going to talk a little bit more about your stage presence, or whatever you want to call it, in terms of how to really become a more effective communicator with clients. We'll see you soon.
Shelter dogs aren't broken. They've simply experienced more life. If they were human, we would call them wise. They would be the ones with tales to tell and stories to write, the ones dealt a bad hand who responded with courage. Do not pity a shelter dog. Adopt one.
Say we've got grit, and we'll take it as a compliment. Because it's our uncommon drive, our spark within, that brings us together and sets us apart. We are temple made. And when others take shortcuts, when others take breaks, when others take the easy way, we take charge.
I work 13 hours a day, 6 days a week. So when I'm off the clock, I gotta get stuff done. So when I need a snack, I need something healthy, tasty, and easy to eat. Like wonderful pistachios without the shells. They're protein-powered, delicious, and great on the go. And that's perfect for me. Thanks, Liz. A woman without a lot of time.
Whether you're a gourmet cook or just want to eat like one, visit Rostelli Market Fresh, your home for the freshest, locally sourced ingredients to please everyone who loves great food. Our organic meats, quality seafood, and free-range poultry are cut fresh to order. Chefs create culinary-inspired prep foods made fresh every day, which pair nicely with our vast selection of fine wines and spirits. Choose from handmade pastas, artisan cheeses, organic produce, and grocery items, all from the finest purveyors. Rostelli Market Fresh, from our family to yours.
RVN TV is a platform for people of any industry to share their story. Over 285,000 viewers are tuning in to RVN TV shows monthly. We guarantee a great experience that you'll be sharing with everyone you know while increasing your personal and company's brand awareness. But what is your brand? According to Forbes, it's a combination of your logo, your product, your design and feel, and your personality. Did you know that aside from being a guest, we offer even more opportunity to boost your brand? Adding your company logo and website on screen during your interview will allow viewers to recognize your brand instantly. Incorporating images and video clips is another great way to showcase your product during your live segment. Let viewers see how good you really are. And most importantly, there's you and your interview. For less than the cost of a newspaper, direct mail, or a magazine ad, you can leave our studio and within 48 hours have a permanent digital copy of your live segment to link to your social media, embed into your company website, or use in email marketing. Investing in your brand is so very important, and we can't wait to have you as a guest.
Shelter dogs aren't broken. They've simply experienced more life. If they were human, we would call them wise. They would be the ones with tales to tell and stories to write, the ones dealt a bad hand who responded with courage. Do not pity a shelter dog. Adopt one.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back. This is Donna Valente, and this is That Sales Show, and I have with me Dr. Laura Sicola. I said that wrong, didn't I?
Sicola, it's all good. Everybody
Sicola.
gets, it's like Pepsi-Cola without the pep. I'm the pep.
Yeah, great. All right, so Dr. Pep. I think what would be great to go through next is like getting a base level understanding of what it means to be authentic for a sales rep, and what authenticity means, and empathy, and how we can weave that into our sales conversations.
And it's very easy to sort of poo-poo those kinds of things and say, oh, authenticity, I am me, I am who I am, and that's all that I am. And it's like, thank you very much, Popeye. But who you are, I think where we get stuck and where we fail to be able to really connect effectively with our prospects is when we put ourselves in this box, which is, this is me, that's not me, I am who I am, right? That this is like some singular, I don't change, right? It's me or it's not me, and that's all there is to it. But when you think about it, we all have lots of different aspects to our personality. I call it the prismatic voice. And just like a rainbow has it's white light with all the colors in it, you're white light and you've got an array of colors. I have a 2-year-old at home. I don't talk to him like this. But it's not like this is the real me and that's the fake me when I'm talking to him, or vice versa, that's the real me and now I'm faking it here. We'll call that my yellow and we'll call this my blue. I just decide in one context versus another, he needs to see a little more yellow, you need to see a little bit more of my blue, and you'll connect better with that part of me. Just like you change your clothes for one context or another, you want to switch up your voice and your delivery, your mannerisms, based on the context, based on the needs of the moment. So as soon as people are able to really recognize, all right, how do I shift? What part of myself do I need to maybe tone down a little here or amp up a little bit more here in order for that person in this context to be able to get me better? Then that's where we really find our power.
And be comfortable.
Yes,
And be
because it's
comfortable
all
with
authentic.
us.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
So
I had a client, actually, if I can tell a story
No,
real quick.
I'd love to hear a
so
story.
it's she wasn't in sales, she was in HR, but African-American woman, mid-50s, and she was concerned that when she was speaking with the senior leadership, most of whom were older white men, that she always found herself enunciating very carefully and feeling like she didn't want to get stereotyped in any negative ways. But she was like, I don't know, is that really, am I being authentic? Am I being myself when I do that? And I said, well, let me ask you a question. I said, do you have any kids? And she said, yeah, I have a 20-year-old son. I said, okay, have you ever had a conversation with him that sounded something like this? I want you to listen to me very carefully because I am only going to say this once. Are you listening? And she started to laugh like that. She was like, yeah, I've definitely had that kind of conversation with him before. I said, okay, so let me ask you this. When you talk to him like that, are you talking white? And she said, no, of course not. I said, okay. So when you're enunciating more carefully with the executives, it's not that you're talking white to them, you're actually reaching into your mom bag and pulling out a tool that says, for this audience, if I want them to hear me clearly, I have to articulate my words more carefully. It's just more effective. Now, when you talk to the bosses, you may want to take out the finger and the head that says, if you make me say this again, I will kill you with my bare hands. Probably not a good piece. So we eliminate that detail, but it's still you being authentic. You're just applying different approaches in different ways.
Yeah. So where do people go wrong with their using their voice as a tool? Like, where are they making mistakes with the way they're saying and phrasing things?
Oh, all over the place. But one of the biggest ones that drives me absolutely bonkers and does the same for a lot of listeners is what's called upspeak or uptalk, technically referred to as high-rise terminal. But it's that pattern that a lot of people use where it sounds like they're asking questions at the ends of all their phrases and sentences because their pitch goes up. And now guys,
And my head goes like this.
you start to glaze over and you feel yourself start to shake when you're hearing it. It's like fingernails down the chalkboard. But it's one of those things where men in particular love to say, oh, that's a millennial women, valley girl kind of thing. No, it's not.
Well, Valley Girls came before the millennials too, by the way.
Yes, but that whole idea that it's just a young girl
Oh, I see what you're
thing.
saying. Yeah.
They'll poo-poo it as,
Yeah.
as an age, gender, I don't know, convergence of some sort. It's not. Guys do it as much as women. The problem is that when men do it, they don't go up as high, so it tends to sound more like Bueller, Bueller. It is monotone over and over again. It just doesn't go up as high. So men come across as more monotonous. Women come across as more ditzy because it goes higher. It's the same pattern. But either way, it just makes the listener zone out because it's boring and it doesn't give you any idea of what your brain should latch onto. What words are important? Punch them up. And by having that repetitive lilt over and over again, whether it goes high or just a little bit, it is something where you don't sound confident, you don't sound interested, thus you don't sound interesting. And when you add that real high rise, what it sounds like is that you're subconsciously tagging on, or you're inflecting, you're implying what's called a tag question, like, right, you know, okay? So what you're doing without realizing it is perpetually requesting, almost begging for validation from the listener. And it's like they're going, okay, right, okay, you're right, it's fine. Move on, stop asking me questions. If you don't sound confident, if you are selling me something, but you need me to validate you on every statement you're making about your product or service, how confident are you really in what you're selling? If you're not confident in it, why would I pay you money for it? So that upspeak
And
piece.
it's unconscious on,
Yes,
on the receiver side.
I love the fact that on the receiver side, right, is
Yeah.
that they don't, it's half subconscious. There are those people who will hear it and they don't know why it's just rubbing them the wrong way, but it does. And there are those who absolutely can hear it and know exactly what you're doing that makes them want to get out of the room and run away screaming. So either way, it's not doing you any favors, regardless of whether or not the other person is able to pinpoint and say, oh, he's going up with that rise again. So either way, it's not helpful for you.
Talk about that in the boardroom. Like, what happens in a boardroom when there is somebody that, you know, has presented fantastic ideas on strategy and how to catapult the business forward. And then when you get in the boardroom, there seems to be some kind of disconnect between what you're saying and then what other people are hearing in terms of the strategy, but dismiss it that you actually said it. And they start, I'll call it mansplaining. Okay, so how does somebody recognize that on their own? If our viewers are watching, maybe they see, you know,
From the
that
listener's
somebody's-
perspective or the speaker's perspective?
From the speaker's perspective, how can they check themselves out in terms of, when I'm looking at this room, I'm feeling like they all were receptive to this idea when it was in print. Now we're in the boardroom and the message has gotten diluted somehow.
So if you are starting to realize that this is a pattern for you, and it's really, even if you think it's not, I would urge you to do a little self-check. And what you need to do is video record yourself, or at least audio record. And it can be just 2 minutes, like the first 2 minutes of your presentation, you rehearse that before you go in. Just record yourself and then listen, because again, what you think you do is not what you actually do. And you might be surprised. You know, I did a training for Cisco, and it was 50 or 60 of their national sales leadership team all together. And as we were talking about Uptalk, one of the guys in the back, again, we're talking about national leadership, so most of them were boomers and Gen Xers, so a little bit older, not the millennial group. And one of the guys raises his hand and says, you know, can you give me an example of when a guy would actually do that? Because I just can't imagine a guy doing it. I said, actually, no, I won't give you an example, but come back to me in an hour, and if you don't have an answer to your own questions, ask me again. And I had them do a variety of exercises, one of which was recording themselves and doing a pitch or a presentation of some sort, just a couple minutes. And then I walked them through how to listen with earbuds and to evaluate their own performance. And when we were debriefing at the end, to his great credit, he raised his hand a bit more sheepishly and said, I gotta confess, I heard a lot more up than I thought was inherently necessary. And I thought, see, it's not just about when you realize, okay, people aren't responding well, am I doing that? You think you're doing great. You think you're coming across fine. You think you sound confident and all perfect. And then you realize, wow, I actually sound like I'm 12. How many deals did I not get the optimum results out of because I was implying the wrong message to my clients?
A lot of our work in sales is on the phone.
Yes.
Let's talk a little bit about how the receiver can actually hear our whole physical.
Absolutely. It's remember that old song, the head bone's connected to the neck bone's connected to the backbone or the shoulder, or whatever it was connected to in the song. In the same way, your voice and your body are physically connected. So when you're on the telephone, people can hear what you look like. People can hear if you're smiling or not. People can hear if you are sitting with good posture or standing up and gesticulating or not. So, excuse me, just because they can't see your face, it doesn't mean that they don't know what you look like. So if you're someone who maybe is a little on the lower energy side and you need to amp it up a bit, stand up when you're on the phone, because that will change the sound of your voice. And people can hear it. If you smile, for example, it literally raises the velum in the back of your throat, and that changes your pitch, which is why if you close your eyes and you say whatever the sentence is, or somebody else closes their eyes and you say one sentence twice, one smiling, one not smiling, they can hear the difference because there's that physical pull in the back that literally changes your pitch. It's not just some sort of hocus pocus or touchy-feely idea that people can hear if you smile. They physically can hear the difference in your voice.
Yeah, and it's funny because I tend to stand up. I have a stand-up desk, I stand
That's
up
great.
when I'm working. And then there's times when, my friends will call me and they're like, are you napping? And I'm like, how do you know? You sound like it. Oh, that's funny. So.
Sure, breath support, all of those things.
Yeah, it's crazy. So we have to rely on our voice for everything, right? And I'm big on self-awareness and being, mindful of our impact on others with our voice, right?
Sure.
So what kind of approach do you take with your clients? Like if you were to engage me and I would say, look, I want to get better at X, Y, and Z. Like what's your approach for helping people get to the next level in their communication?
It would depend on what the X, Y, and Z are.
Okay.
Right, so give me an example. What's your X? Pop quiz.
I think I tend to, drop my endings a lot.
Sure.
And I think it's because I'm, Italian. I don't know what it is, but I tend to drop my endings. And I think that could be I lose credibility.
Sure, it's a question of, in some places it'll work on your favor if you're talking with someone who also does that. Maybe they're also South Philly Italian or they're New York Italian, et cetera. Then it's a solidarity piece. We're part of the same group. We understand each other on a different level. If you go somewhere else, you go down south or out west, dropping those kinds of endings, you don't want people to associate you with Rocky Balboa.
Right.
It's okay, nice that they want you to fight for them, but does he project the image of intellectual or at least intelligent enough, or someone who's knowledgeable about other things, or even literate for that matter?
Exactly.
So
exactly.
at that point, it's not working for you. That's where it's good to do things like slow down and to start to see, what am I actually doing and what impression is it leaving and why?
Yes.
Where is it working for you in this context but not in that context, and how do you then adjust it, again, in a way that's always authentic to you, but recognizing that maybe we need to turn down that orange color in that prismatic voice and turn up the green a little bit more, because it's too bright for them.
Yeah, so you're really asking us to assess ourselves and give
Very
that to
much
you.
so,
Yeah.
very much. I don't have, that's why as you know, coaching is not a class. Right? I do certain trainings, but I don't just have my Laura Sicola class on speaking, because for someone who's coming to me saying, I know this is holding me back, I have a fear of this, or I'm not good in these contexts, or I just need to project more authority to be taken seriously and have people know that I'm ready for this bigger whale of a client.
Right.
Then let's see what's happening. Okay, you're telling me that you think you have a problem here. Let's see if it's actually there or not.
Yeah.
So we're going to reverse engineer what you are doing in the way that you speak, the way that you present, and compare that to what you want to project and why. What are your goals?
Yeah.
Then let's see where there's a disconnect, and then we work backwards.
Awesome. So we're going to be wrapping up in 1 second, but I know how to get a hold of Laura, and I'm probably going to sign up with her today. But why don't you tell our audience how they can get a hold of you and up their game for 2019?
Oh, my pleasure. Please visit me on my website at www.vocalimpactproductions.com. And actually, if you go to vocalimpactproductions.com/free gift, you can download a 10-point checklist on do you speak like a leader.
Oh, I'll be downloading that in a minute. Thank
Terrific.
you so much. It was
Donna,
so great to
thank
meet
you.
you.
Thanks
Really
for
a
having me.
pleasure. Thank you, everyone. We'll see you next week.